Tuesday morning tech talk. What's more exciting than talking tech? I don't know. Let's talk about people talking tech. So my name is Mike Powers. I'm the director of field service at Intermountain Health. We've got, 33 hospitals and 500 clinics in the north half of the Rocky Mountain West. My team takes care of everything that it's too expensive to have a local expert. We have to drive to it. So kind of Billings to Denver, Las Vegas to Boise. That's my geography. Intermountain also has an airplane company to fly patients around and solar panel company to improve respiratory care by cleaning up the air. A lot of interesting things going on. I'd like to introduce some of our speakers. We've got Edward Myers with Crothall and Adrian Jennings. If you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick.
I'm Eddie Myers. I'm the National Director of Cybersecurity for Crothall Healthcare. We're an ISO servicing hospitals from New York City to California, and I lead Crothall's nationwide cybersecurity initiatives.
I'm Adrian Jennings. I'm the Chief Product Officer at a company called Cognosis. You may have heard of. We're reinventing our TLS for hospitals to make it actually worthwhile.
Right on. There's not going to be a lot of slides with this. So lead off with asking a few questions of folks. Our first question is going to be, how can healthcare technology management organizations look to save money while taking on additional cybersecurity management burdens? How do you balance that?
So from an ISO perspective, we serve a very unique skill set for our clients. A lot of the times our clients cannot, skill up and have medical device cybersecurity specialists there. And so when we come in with our managed service program, we're able to bring a capitated cost to them, manage their program for them so that they don't have to go out, hire, manage, and bring in that expertise to try to fill that gap. And it's proven very fruitful for our clients, because while the majority of them know that they have an issue, they don't know how to fill that because they're focused on their hospital IT. They've already outsourced their programs to us, and again, we're the medical device professionals, and so we have found that by us filling that gap, we're able to save them money and accelerate their medical device cybersecurity programs.
Right on.
Yeah, I mean, just and the key words there are managed service, right? And so my background is in healthcare and also in manufacturing as well, and both of those industries have made mistakes in the past, I think, by trying to build up practices internally and build up skill sets that are not related to the core mission whatsoever. And in this day of managed services being much more accepted and these kind of SaaS models for purchasing these services, why on earth would you try to become a cybersecurity expert when your job is really healing people? They're totally different things.
Right on. Thank you, gentlemen. Next question that we had was, if you had to think about the HTM community, right? What do you see as the biggest challenge kind of for asset management as a whole? Maybe even 1A and 1B. What are the big challenges that you see that are difficult to address and overcome?
I can start on that one. So I think one of the this industry blows my mind a little bit around asset management. It's the only place I know where equipment, like mobile medical equipment in particular, is purchased on purely anecdotal information. There's almost no accountability of that. It takes a chief nursing officer whose staff can't lay hands on what they need when they need it to buy more, and that's not the case for anything else or anywhere else. You would normally have a look at things like usage and utilization and what do we have and what do we need and what are some metrics. The CFO would normally sit down and say the dreaded 3 letters to you, which is ROI. But this is the one place where that doesn't happen. So one of the biggest challenges, I think, is this just anecdote-based purchasing model, which clearly is not particularly efficient. Where are the facts? Show me the facts. Make data-based decisions like we do on just about everything else. So I mean, that's a huge that's a huge difference between the way healthcare does things and where anybody else does things.
Right on.
So I would say, with asset management, some of the struggles we see are, the majority of the medical devices are movable. They move around the hospital. You can have a passive asset discovery, system that can give you a general location, and then you can move into RTLS and how to get that into your CMMS so you can have live data to know. And then once you start jumping into rental management, fleet management, and all that, it's very, very hard to keep track what goes in and out the door. I've been a part of a few different types of RTLS tracking systems that have worked very, very well, but it's trying to get everybody on board, get the integrations, and get the buy-off, from the client to make that investment. Typically, after the first year, it does pay off, and they realize that they've had a huge gap. And then being able to bring that into full program management, is paramount, because we all know the healthcare workers like to move stuff, hide stuff. You've got to look in every door, everything.
Never
And,
happens.
and so, trying to find those, but combining, different systems to feed into one source of truth to be able to track it and manage it is where I think there's a gap that could be filled.
So if I understand correctly, the biggest problems are, what is the inventory and how's it used?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. Our next question is, what cybersecurity measures can service providers implement to protect patient data?
So, it's, for us, it was a two-step approach. Years ago, we saw that more and more medical devices are going to be connected to a network. More and more devices are going to be tied to a computer, which means they're going to have their security footprint is going to be much larger. A lot of the biomed techs that we employ went to school just for that. They didn't go to school for networking, cybersecurity, and all that good stuff. So we started a program called the CEIT program, to where we put every technical person through the very baseline CompTIA certification called IT Fundamentals. And by doing that, it gives them a skill set to where they are much more comfortable talking to client IT departments, that they're not as intimidated. And just recently, when they came out with the BMed apprentice, and with the Department of Labor, that certification is a part of it. So it's not that we're far off. And then from there, moving them to A+. And then that ties into, again, cybersecurity, because as we roll out passive asset and vulnerability management, when we call the boots on the ground and say, hey, look, we need you to take X, Y, and Z on this medical device, you might need to involve IT. They, again, are much more comfortable. They've been through that. The acronyms that IT throws out to them, it makes sense to them. And so the response time and the understanding of not only the why, but why is it that important, has really helped, the healthcare delivery organizations and us partner together to elevate that program.
Which company is certified? You say
IT Plus, IT Fundamentals Plus. Correct. That's the very, very baseline. And then the one above it is A+. And the way I explain that to our technicians is A+ is kind of like BMET certification for us. Like any IT person you're going to run into at your hospital is going to have that A+. Correct. And so the IT Fundamentals covers a bunch. It's not too overwhelming, and it really does help elevate their skill set. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I come at it from a slightly different angle, which is, where do we interact with PHI? And it's when you get into things like monitoring workflows in hospitals, tracking patients, tracking staff, understanding room occupancy, how long has it been since a patient has been seen by a nurse, how long has it been since they've been discharged before somebody from transport came with a wheelchair to get them out. And the key there, the key learning for me there is to keep the PHI and the PII out of places it doesn't need to be. There's no need. I don't need to know who's in a room to tell you this room is occupied by a patient. I just need to know it's patient number 12. And so obfuscation till the last possible minute is key, and keeping that PHI contained in a single spot is key as well. As soon as it starts to proliferate, and we've been asked this, right? Okay, we're gonna do an integration. We want you guys to track this, and we're gonna make this integration and give you all this data about this thing. And the answer is, why would you do that? In terms of increasing your security vulnerability footprint, now you've dumped a bunch of stuff outside your secure database into somebody else's that you don't control, and therefore have no ability to secure that. So keeping it contained and keeping it away from all those like third-party applications that are connected in and they should be firewalled off. That's absolutely key, because as soon as it starts to leak out of a little hole, it gets out there in the world.
Right on. Thank you. Our next question is, how are service organizations strategically aligning with hospital partners to move them into the future?
So I've been on both sides, hospital employee and, an ISO, and there's always been kind of tension between IT, the hospital, and the ISO when coming to work, when trying to come together to collaborate. And what I've found is fostering those relationships with IT, letting them know you're on their side. One of the things I really enjoy doing is whenever I usually first come on site, I meet with the IT leaders and we go for a walk through the hospital. We go into patient care areas because a lot of the times they have not been there in years. And I'm at fault for that. And that was a lesson that was taught to me many years ago. Whenever I was purely IT, I would just sit there, remote in, and get stuff done. And so taking them on a walkthrough helps them understand that, yes, you're in IT, but the end goal is patient care. And so whenever you have those relationships, whenever you start building those programs with them, and there's trust on either side, you can actually push forward, because whenever, let's say we're bringing the new application to them that we're trying to use and they shut it down. Nope, not gonna happen, not gonna happen. And then they realize that we're trying to do this for patient care. Let's have a meeting about it. Let's both work together. Case in point, bringing, like remote diagnostics for MRs and CTs, that they did not want to hear it, too big of a vulnerability. And whenever you show them what can happen and why it's important and why minutes matter, and helping them get that application to pass the security review, it really starts pushing them into the future. And then, as you bring in a vulnerability management, sometimes they feel a little reluctant, but as you continue to foster that trust, you can push new innovations that they might not understand from a medical equipment plan, to help secure them and ensure patient care and ensure that nurses don't have to think about anything other than taking care of that patient.
So collaborating to make sure there's further acceptance. I like that.
Well, yeah, like bringing IT in to be part of the solution, right? I mean, IT is a weird, it's gone through weird evolution over the previous decades. It was something that didn't exist, to something you kind of had to do, to something that nobody really understood. So let's maybe outsource it, to, oh, holy crap, that didn't work. Let's bring it back in again. And so it's almost this, you're talking about from the point of view of bringing IT out and helping them understand or reconnect with the purpose of what they do. But there's a corporate level attitude there as well, which is seeing IT as a strategic part of the organization, right? Where there's no doubt we're living in an information age. There's no doubt that there's so much data being generated inside hospitals that IT is not the people you call when you need a new phone outlet or an Ethernet drop anymore. IT is a core backbone of the way you do business. So bringing IT out to the front lines, absolutely, but also elevating IT to a key constituent in the long-term strategy, and both of those mean engaging IT early and often. My experience with IT has always been that when IT understands that you are there to help them provide a better service, you are a friend. If they are kept out, or left out, not necessarily kept out, but nobody occurs to bring IT until right at the end saying, oh, okay, we've made this giant decision. We're going to do this huge big thing. And oh, by the way, it's going to kind of fall on you guys because it's like wires and bits and ones and zeros and stuff. Then IT starts to become the blocker, right? Then IT starts to say, well, hang on a minute. How did you guys get this far without even consulting us? What is all this? So I think what Ed said, but in addition to starting to treat IT as and seeing IT as a very important strategic part of the future strategy, that's going to help propel people into the future for sure.
Outstanding. Thank you. Totally.
I'm kind of curious, driving this back towards asset tracking
Mhm.
and location-based services.
Yeah, sure.
So, asset tracking to me is the foundation of location-based technology.
Okay.
right? So, if you move out of the realm of asset tracking and consider that as your backbone for
Mhm.
location-based data
Mhm.
within your facility, that starts opening up the world for interconnections to all your other databases. So you're looking at the integration of the workflow,
Mhm.
processing people, equipment, and you can look at that a little bit more. But that then it opens up the door for cybersecurity concerns because of those integrations.
Mhm.
I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on that and how you handle and manage that. So an HCM department, which starts with an asset tracking, can actually think about how do I go above and beyond and really increase my ROI while managing my risk mitigation.
Yeah, because there's an interesting thing where the location of assets might itself become PHI actually. A patient in a room with a certain mix of equipment is very indicative of what the patient is suffering from, and that's PHI right there, right? So as it expands, I think it starts to become pretty interesting in terms of how that location context might be itself something that needs to be secured. But to your point about ROI, what the minimum amount of value you can get out of RTLS is finding stuff. That's the baseline. It's the first rung on the ladder. And for many people, it's not even enough value to bother putting the money in to invest in one in the first place. I think we'll probably talk about this a little bit more as we go through. The other things that you talked about are exactly the point. It's not about where's my lost stuff. Why's your stuff lost? Shouldn't be lost. I always say, whenever I get a chance, so I'll do it now. The analogy I give people is if you had a new puppy who kept stealing your slippers so you could never find them, would you train the puppy not to steal them, or would you hire someone to find your slippers for you? And what the healthcare industry does universally is hire slipper finders. We lose stuff. RTLS is going to help us find our lost stuff. But my question is, why are you losing it? Something's broken with the workflow. Something's broken with the way you handle assets. Something's broken with your processes and procedures or behaviors or training or something. Fix that. Train the puppy, right? So your point is absolutely key in terms of value. If you're just slipper finding, it's not going to be very transformative whatsoever. If you're talking about transformation is how do you monitor, optimize, and automate processes so that everything is right where it should be, right when you need it. Shouldn't that be the case? Because you just put a hand out and there it is. Well, you can do that. So that's where the value is. It's 3-4 layers above where's my lost stuff, in my view.
And on the cybersecurity side, one of the values I've seen with some of our clients that have implemented RFID fully throughout the hospital is going through and from a cybersecurity perspective, creating rules and alerts for certain pieces of equipment. We have some hospitals where people walk in, they're like, oh, there's a brand new computer. They don't understand what that computer does, and they'll try to take off of that computer. So by putting rules, hey, there's an ultrasound that never moves, give us an alert as soon as it moves forward, vertically, or if it goes 300 yards horizontally. CT computers, MR computers, we were tagging those so that we got those alerts. And then also, you know, whenever it starts to leave the building, give an alert so that you can find that equipment that either purposely or accidentally, you know, might be attached to a patient that's being transferred. So you can get those and bring them in. So from a cybersecurity, that's how we use it at some of our clients. And it's really helped tremendously to know exactly where it is when it comes to that aspect.
And so that's a good example of like one level up from slipper finding, right? So let me paint a picture of multi-levels up from slipper finding. So let's pick on syringe pumps. Can't find a syringe pump, buy a slipper finding solution. Where's the syringe pump? What are you going to do? Make a nurse pull a phone out and run a search on a phone? Oh, there it is. Run down the hallway and grab one. That didn't fix anything. You save some search time, but we just heard next door the lessons learned in RTLS that search time, we kind of saved some. It wasn't that much, and honestly, it was more than offset by managing all the batteries we now have to manage because of these RTLS tags, right? So that's not the solution. So then you start thinking about par level management, right, and clean rooms. Well, if we knew exactly how many things are in a clean room and we've got to set a threshold, if it falls below the threshold, someone needs to get up and replenish the clean room. Now the nurses just have to go straight to the clean room to get whatever they need. Great. Now you are starting to train the puppy. And you've got par level management. But let me ask this. What's the right par level? You don't know. Anecdotally, people set thresholds. Well, why don't you measure that? You can manage your usage over time. You can figure out, oh, we decided it needed to be 10 in this clean room. We never went below 5. What did you do? You just stored 5 assets in that clean room for a whole year and didn't use them. Sell those, stick them on eBay. So the next level up is, you know, you go from slipper finding to par management to what are the par levels to, hey, do the par levels need to be the same every day? Is the disposition of assets on Saturday night the same as it needs to be on a Tuesday morning? What about Easter versus Christmas? What about rain versus shine? What would a self-configuring hospital look like that automatically readjusted based on this big picture that said, hey, gonna need some neck braces, it's raining out there, people are gonna start rear-ending people. You know, so that's what I'm talking about, building these layers of value. And when you get up there, you've abstracted way away from slipper finding and where's my lost stuff, but what you've done is created a really efficient machine, right? So that's the way to think about it. Is
part of those needs to utilization.
Yeah.
You're right about seasonal business. So in Florida, Orlando and South, snowbirds come down
Yeah.
from November to May.
Gonna need some walking frames in the winter.
Since it's peaks.
Mm-hmm.
More ventilators get used, you know.
Right.
Anyway, COVID is pretty much over, but still.
Right.
Seasonal business, ERs more busy.
Yeah.
All that. So infusion pumps, we got 698 used to the medical software updates. We had to touch every one of them. But
Yeah.
we found most of them, but some you still got to use MedNet. So some of your tools built into these systems. Like I said, ROI, I never could get an ROI and just put up the slip right there. Like
Right.
that. It makes sense. The process needed to be fixed.
Right.
Whether your central distribution model or floor model, you know, pump scale forward, and when do they come in?
And there's the
When do they get clean? When do they come by? When do they get fixed? I'm not a distribution center.
right.
I'm not taking that.
And the challenge there is if you start, as soon as you use the P word, which is process, now you need good data, which means granular data. Now your Wi-Fi tracking system that Cisco wants to flog you because they sold you the access points that tells you, it's kind of down there, but we're not quite sure which floor it's on. That isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, I mean, if the Wi-Fi is not enabled by IT and you put it in MedNet or wherever your tracker is on a lot of different devices, it gives you a hallway or a floor.
Yeah.
South, where is it? There's community.
But it's not in.
It's down the hall, but you still got to move.
Yeah, it's enough to answer where roughly is this thing, and yeah, not how is this thing being used. Is it in a patient room? Oh, you're talking to a 20-year ultra wideband veteran, and I'm going to say no, it's not the answer. All right, sorry, we're going.
No, go ahead.
Tech
This is the value of this.
There's two classes of RTLS. There's holy shit, how much do you want me to spend on infrastructure RTLS? How long is it going to take to deploy? What are you talking about going inside patient rooms, lifting ceiling tiles, running Ethernet? You're insane. That's one class of RTLS. The other class of RTLS is Bluetooth. And ultra wideband's in this half. Takes a lot of infrastructure. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm 20-year ultra wideband technologist, and we did incredible things for the military with ultra wideband that you wouldn't even believe were true. But oh, it's heartbreakingly expensive, heartbreakingly complex to deploy, heartbreakingly time consuming to deploy, heartbreakingly invasive to deploy. It's a lot of infrastructure. If you can afford it, go for it. That leaves the Bluetooth camp, right? The same, by the way, everything I just said, true for infrared, ultrasound, all those systems that require just a ton of stuff. Bluetooth says, hey, Bluetooth is cheap, just put Bluetooth everywhere. Well, here's the problem with Bluetooth. It doesn't do any better really than Wi-Fi in terms of tracking accuracy. So Bluetooth's a pretty good slipper finding solution. And it's a whole new frontier of ROI. The ROI over here is, holy crap, that's expensive, it better deliver a lot of value. And it never really delivered the value and it never really took off. Bluetooth, it's cheap, but at least it doesn't do very much. So the ROI there is still kind of marginal. There is a new generation of RTLS that leverages Bluetooth, leverages AI, leverages cloud, can deliver the kind of location granularity you get over here at the cost point you get over here, and that's changing the game somewhat. I left ultra wideband after 20 years to get into this AI-enabled Bluetooth industry because I think it fills a gap in the market that's been yawning for 15 years or more. So yeah, did I give you the right answer?
But to one of the slippers, I mean, yes, all the ROI is here. But we work with two verticals, healthcare and industrial.
Yeah.
And we try to find out where RTLS has in place in industrial. And realize that warehousing doesn't make sense.
No.
Because it's robots.
Right.
Robots, it's all predictable.
Yep.
All designed that they're built to move fast. Wherever there is a human factor, that's entropy, and that's mess.
Correct.
Our system won't fix it. So for slipper finding, that's the topic that doesn't want to be trained. It will never be trained.
That's
always a value.
I like that. Yeah, when I talk about the overall, how do you describe the big market umbrella where RTLS has value? It's manual, spatially distributed, complex processes, right? People doing work that requires moving stuff around quite a long way. Room to room, parking place to parking space, building to building. And try as we might, we can't make perfect humans. And where there are imperfect humans, there are imperfect processes. Imperfect processes lead to mistakes and inefficiencies, and it's the mistakes and inefficiencies that we're trying to solve. So you're 100% correct about that.
I might have to take a little bit of exception to the discussion of Gilly and, ultra wideband, et cetera, but more so on the point of location access.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably don't know, 100 installs of RTLS.
Yeah.
And I've seen it from a medical center director's point of view, clinical engineer's point of view, to a clinician.
Right.
And there is a use case for all types of location accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
So if I really want to look at process management, if I really want to talk about hand hygiene compliance,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to look at some of those larger ROIs that really impact healthcare delivery,
Yeah.
right? I want that accuracy, and I want it to bring level. Heck, I may want it to data.
Yes.
I may want to know which physician did which procedure,
Yeah.
with which supply, and which equipment on which patient.
Right.
And I can automate that. That's the highest level, and I'm going to need location accuracy.
Correct.
But if I just want to say, hey, I want my biomed techs to be able to find the equipment they need to do for PM, so I can stop getting yelled at for having missed PM, then,
Fine.
larger location accuracy, more variation, it's probably okay.
Well,
Although that may just be a step up from passive.
so,
And you have to look at the ROI I submit, if you want to put in the investment, then you're really looking at a long-term goal of location-specific data, not just an asset tracking.
Yeah,
And that's why I was trying to direct it towards, what does that mean for cybersecurity implications? Because you have lots of integrations coming down there.
Yeah, I'll let you comment. I'll just say one thing and I'll let you comment on that. But there is a gamut of location accuracy requirements for different use cases. And there's a gamut of costs for delivering location accuracy. And as the accuracy goes up, the value goes up and the cost goes up. Which means the ROI stays pretty stable along the thing. The problem is it's so expensive to do super precise tracking, has been traditionally, that there's no more ROI doing that than there is finding slippers in hospitals. So the question is, how do you get that accuracy at that level of cost? And that's what's happening. Room level accuracy, I would submit, is the threshold. Once you have room level accuracy, you actually have a valuable system that's going to deliver on process improvement. Sub room level accuracy, I think we could have a fun conversation over a cocktail about whether anybody's actually going to do that because the cost is so high, and does it actually provide a payback? But you've got to get room level and bay level. It's not just a physical room. It might be a virtual room and a multi-bed room. And you can do that these days, by the way, with low-cost technologies that aren't invasive and complex and expensive to deploy, by throwing giant cloud-sized AI brains at it and doing remarkable things with really crappy sensors. And that's kind of the cusp of where RTLS is heading now into, I think, exactly what you said, which, why have 30-meter accuracy when for the same price you can get 1-meter accuracy? I'll take that. The only reason anybody has 30-meter accuracy is all they could afford because the value was so low. So it does all come back to ROI, but the ROI game is changing because at a fundamental level, in a tech session, AI is fundamentally changing the performance of really crappy sensors, really sparsely distributed.
Yeah, and when it comes to cybersecurity, least minimum necessary is key. I've been a part of many integrations to where they just throw everything at you. And it's like, well, we don't need everything. This is the specific. So getting the specific key parts from an RFID tag to feed into an EMR, you were talking about what device the doctor was using, getting that information, just that information feeding in to an EMR from a CMMS, and not having it bi-directional to where, doctor can check in, say, okay, this is here, this is here. Those feed into there, don't have it feed back out, and it just removes that extra leg, and it makes your security posture much smaller. And again, back to least minimum necessary, to where it's only collecting what you need. Does that answer what you were looking for? Okay.
Yeah.
I've been a part, even PACS projects, to where the PACS system throws everything at the modality. And it's like, whoa, hold on. We don't need to see social security number. We don't need to see, mother's maiden name. And they're just throwing everything whenever they pull work list. So, just making sure the least minimum that you need to make it function is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of to dovetail into this discussion, one of our questions was, is the primary benefit of RTLS to help people find misplaced items?
Yeah, no. So yes and no. And the answer is
maybe.
Oh God, yes. And for the love of God, no. Oh God, yes, meaning, yeah, that's how it's been pitched for a decade and a half. That's all it could do. Dear God, no, for all the reasons that I just talked about. It's the minimum amount of value you can get out of it. And the weirdness has been, you think about what it takes to deploy, well, ultra wideband, infrared. You're talking about infrastructure pretty much in every room. Inside patient rooms, that you've got infection control to worry about. You got to take that patient room offline. That's revenue, that room. That's what that is. How much revenue are you willing to forego during this potentially month-long deployment process, running cables, installing things in ceilings? It's heartbreaking. So to do that and just use it to find lost things, are you crazy? I mean, that's not the right way to do it. And then on the other hand, okay, look, all I want to do is find lost things. Well, now you better buy a cheap system, and a cheap system traditionally, as I said, until the advent of some of these newer technologies, just haven't been that great. Okay, it's somewhere down in the West Wing on floor 3. Man, I got to still go and search the whole damn thing. So you only halved my search time, and search time really, that's the metric. That's not the way to play the game.
Yeah, and I know with our company, you know, we have equipment distribution, and we have provable numbers on the infection control with cleaning, tracking, all that equipment, and it's paid off. You know, we've had chief nursing officers and everybody say, oh yeah, okay, whatever, we'll talk to you in 6 months. And once you're able to track it and you know, not only get the par levels, but know what is dirty, what is clean, and it's night and day. Walking into a hospital that has something like that and one that doesn't, when you walk in and say, hey, I need a clean pump, instead of someone going, they're like, clean rooms over there, grab whichever one you want. So there's much more to it than just tracking.
Yeah, that's the value right there. And I think of it as two thoughts come to mind. One is if the nursing staff is using the RTLS, you did it wrong. That should be invisible to them. It's like it's one of these things that should just disappear into the background. And my analogy to that is, I'm from Florida. Who else is Florida? You're Florida. Fire ants. Oh my God, we got fire ants. We have some people come around and treat for fire ants. They come once every 6 months. They zoom around on a 4-wheeler. They spray a bunch of stuff. 0 fire ants. 2 or 3 years from now, I'm going to say, why are we paying this guy? We don't have fire ants. And like the same thing should happen with your RTLS. It's like, we don't lose anything. Everything's always right where it should be. We don't need this RTLS. Well, the RTLS is the thing doing that in the background.
Cool.
Question. Is he pointing out that the cost is the key factor in implementing this upper level?
Getting enough.
What I'm thinking is, isn't there another barrier, which is mental barrier? So easy to connect education, finding things, and the other one requires a level of abstraction that organizations, hospital maybe do not have.
Yes.
Think about
100%. 100%. Yeah. So the further up the value ladder you climb, the further away from XY coordinates you get. I don't know if it's ever occurred to you when you pull up Google and you pull up a restaurant and it says, oh, typical, here's how typically busy it is. Right now it's busier than normal. Wow, that's really helpful. How does Google know that? Because it tracks phones and it counts how many people are in the restaurant. It's based in XY coordinates of humans that they aggregate, but they create this data that's so abstracted from location, it doesn't even occur to you that it comes from location, right? So yeah, that is a problem, like a conceptual problem. And it's partly because of what you said. It's partly because when you think tracking, you think, where am I? And it's partly because the RTLS industry spent the last 15 years convincing the healthcare industry that the value of RTLS was finding lost things. So the industry has trained the end user to ask for certain things, and here are we're left with that legacy. But I think the thing that's changed for me, so I've been doing this RTLS stuff for I don't know what year is it now, 25 years. And back in the day, it was pretty hard to explain that higher level value to people because nobody had a personal context for it. But pretty much everybody now has a personal context for the value that letting Google or Apple, whoever, track your phone gives you. And it's about location context. It's about traffic and really good predictions of departure, of drive times, right? Because they're tracking every car and they know how fast you're going. So you can, that is a barrier, but it's surmountable because you can appeal to people's personal experiences with their smartphones these days and say, look, let me point out all the value you're getting. A lot of that's based in XY.
The capabilities that are needed to build applications that will provide the structured level of value, who should have responsibility of doing it? Because hospital organizations don't
Yeah.
really have that.
No, that's,
And RTLS companies,
well, so let's look at the history of the RTLS industry has been that there were people who made sensors and people who made software. And then there were these people who made middleware, and I never understood what that was. And that went away. And then the people who made the sensors started acquiring the people who made the software, because sensor XY doesn't mean anything, and software is useless without the input data. And here we are. So again, one of the other things that's changing in the industry is the notion that it's not about slipper finding. You've got to provide high value at low cost, and you've got to provide that value in the solution. You've got to create an end-to-end product that, okay, it has hardware and sensors and tracking tags and all that stuff, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is the experience in front of the pane of glass. So that it is changing. It's been, I think the RTLS industry has shot itself in the foot, and we've just now got the bullet out and are starting to heal from it. And how the RTLS industry shot itself in the foot was, it's a slipper finding solution. We've got some software. It shows you where things are on a map. We can connect to any sensor, go by whichever one you want. Well, how's a hospital gonna get, you can't do that. And all you're doing is creating a market for consultants. If there's a lot of consultants, the technology vendors are screwed up. That's my measure of a market.
So if I can, let's steer the conversation to our last question, which is what new innovations have there been for asset management, or what's coming on the horizon that's going to change how asset management is done in the next couple of years? You guys can speak to that.
So from my side, cybersecurity, device utilization, feeding into capital planning. It is, we're getting a wealth of information from many different platforms, building that into our CMMS so that we then can take that and help do capital plans and fleet management. I don't know how many times nurses have run to us, we need more of this, more of that, and we're able to tell them you're using half of them. And then by bringing in the cybersecurity aspect, let's say that there's a CT that's a little older, but we're able to prove that it's still secure. And let's maybe not replace that one this year. Let's look at this new med camera over here that we really can't do much with. So let's focus over there. And not only that, this one's getting heavily utilized, this CT not so much. And then being able to bring that to our the hospital's capital board and make those recommendations. The information they're getting now they've never had before. It was purely age, potential usage, and what vendor showed up that day to pitch a program for switching your whole fleet.
Right on.
I think two things on the technology side is one is AI. It's really really changing things. A traditional RTLS solution is it's usually some kind of on-premise thing, has a limited sized brain, a lot of processing is done out of the edge, not much brain you can put in a tag that you run off a battery. So the cloud and AI between them are transformative, and they're transformative because you don't want to do any work out of the edge. You don't want to do much work on premise, honestly. You want to get all that raw data into the cloud and throw a giant cloud-sized brain at it, which is what we do. We throw 3 different AIs at raw Bluetooth data and get room level accuracy. Room level accuracy with a beacon that lasts freaking forever. I don't know. It's embarrassing how long it lasts. It's just a battery device that goes up in the ceiling, and you put one every 30 feet down the hallway. You don't go in any patient rooms or anything. You get room level accuracy in every room, either side of the hallway. And which is pretty amazing, right? I mean, a handful of beacons in the ceiling that almost never need maintenance. And as long as you throw a big enough brain at it, you could get room level accuracy. That's what I'm talking about in terms of the transformative nature of the AI applied to shitty sensors. I say shitty, I just did. And doing amazing things, doing really high-end things with really low-end hardware. So the AI and cloud are transformative. And the other thing is I'm going to call it the SaaSification of RTLS, is buying stuff under a SaaS model. talked about a capital committee and capital purchase. These things were multi-million-dollar capital purchases. You want to do a whole giant hospital with infrared, holy cow. And that's the above the line cost. What about all the internal costs, the IT costs and the staffing costs and the maintenance costs and the, I don't know if you guys were next door listening to the lessons learned there, but it was fantastically expensive. So the problem used to be, okay, you had this giant program, a giant IT project, a giant construction project. You were in the hole for a year or two until you got back in the black. And ROI is measured in months, right? You're going to get an ROI in 22 months. Oh, that means you're going to be back to zero in 22 months, and then you'll start in value. The SaaS business model, which is pervaded everything now, is pervaded RTLS too, and now you can pay for a monthly fee per thing tracked, which includes everything. And so you're spending at the same rate you're saving. We talk about self-funding RTLS, meaning actually you put $1 in, you get $1.50 out or $2 out. ROI is now not how many months, it's how many dollars you get out for every dollar you put in. So cloud and AI on the technology side and SaaS on the purchasability side, it's really transformative actually. It means people can set up systems quickly that provide a lot of value without writing giant checks.
Fair enough. Looking out of the room at large, we've got some time left. Are there any other questions for our panelists?
From cybersecurity assessment, what part of that process are you involving IT and leadership? I think what we struggle with sometimes is something shows up at the loading dock, hey, we need to check it in, but nobody was notified that purchase.
Yeah.
You know, and then we're left doing a cybersecurity assessment that we're not happy with.
That never happens.
No,
I've never seen
that only happens at your place.
And yeah, advice as far as what process or what stuff you have in place in order to get to that.
So it almost reminds me of many, many years ago when IT finally put themselves in front of procurement. Say, look, we've got to sign off on every single thing that's being bought. I don't care if it's a trash can. I don't care what it is. I will put my name down. And what we're finding now is IT thinks they know everything. And now we're like, okay, we need to look at every IT purchase because what you think it is and what it actually is, we need to know about too. There's always going to be that gap, but it's really hard to get in front of it because no matter what, it's still going to show up. So having a predefined assessment that will at least get you over that initial hump to say, look, yeah, it's approved conditionally, and then let's get it on the network. Let's finish assessing it and working with that because, you know, it might be a piece of equipment they need it for that patient that day. And so with a lot of our clients, there's conditional, and then they'll, you know, kind of sandbox it or really isolate it so it can only do that job. And then we'll go back and work with them on it. In working with IT on the different, you know, aspects that can be turned on and can be turned off. But again, it goes to having that relationship with IT to say, look, you've got to call us. We know you just found out about it and you think you're the last ones. We're the last ones. Trust me. And it happens all the time. So having a very tight and concise, quick questionnaire, getting that pertinent information in your CMMS, seeing if you have one like that that's already there, and then having that process of isolating it on the network until it goes through that full, you know, getting the SBOM, the MDS2, and going through all that. And then, you know, away from that, having some type of software that will help you do that will help you as soon as you put it on. You could have, you know, again, a sandbox over there to where it monitors it, looks at it, and then you can get a report. That's something else we do with our clients too. So it's an ever evolving problem that will never go away.
I mean, I'd add one thing just briefly, which is why are unexpected things showing up? And the answer is someone made a knee-jerk purchase based on a crisis and some anecdotal information and said, oh shit, buy new stuff. That shouldn't happen.
So from a purchase capital planning, whatever your committee is that reviews all purchases and approved POs at the give a vendor to order and deliver. The process is IT has a checkbox, biomed, utilities, construction. Is this medical piece does involve IT is what we use in Trinity Health, and yes or no.
Yeah.
And that's ideal, right? But
That's ideal, yeah.
things may show up as a loaner that we want.
Well.
And then you're right, oh, TIS, the Trinity Info, and have a regional person who does that, says, it's already been risk assessed in the system. You just give a make model, you know, a local ultrasound, one of the recent ones in the industry. Yes, it has, it was done in 2023, so it has to be within 2 years of success, is the rule. And then I say, all right, we're gonna go IT, you're out, you know, that's all I need from you. And then when I connect to the network, we do the configuration of the packs, and I know that's biomed. Network. But then that, you know, so that happens on loaners that just show up. You know, you got an idea at least a day ahead of a loaner showing up, or a loaner to demo or demo to buy new, then you can kind of say, well, you're not gonna be on the network now, but it's a demo. You don't use it, and you buy the real one, you connect.
Well, and then again, having that software, because I don't know how many of our clients, they show up with a demo, they don't tell anybody, and where do they put that demo on? Guest Wi-Fi. They start doing patients. How do you track that? We use Assembly with all of our clients, and one of our first rules is medical device on a guest network. And they're like, oh, that never happens. It's like, oh, it happens all the time, because whenever they show up, they can't get a hold of IT. Oh, here's some guest network. Let's hit that. And so it's a lot out there.
I would say one other thing is communication. A lot of the issues with biomed and third-party biomed, manufacturers biomed, a lot of the issues come down to communication. Some of the best practices there include quarterly business reviews. If you or your leadership are meeting with all of the departmental stakeholders, whether it's, you know, radiology or the OR nurse manager or whomever, nursing unit managers, quarterly, this is how many of your devices we fixed, PMs that are coming up, recalls that are out, and there is a cadence built into your daily work life. Then the biomeds are a trusted partner with the local leadership and the stakeholders, which will then make far fewer things show up on the loading dock unannounced, because part of that quarterly business review can be, do you guys have anything coming in the next 3 months that we need to know about in the next 90 days? And of course they know, but they never thought to give you a call because nobody ever thought to reach out to them and ask. So QBRs, I think, are a huge thing that add a lot of value to several different stakeholders, not just biomed and certain departments.
Yeah.
Just have our